are live. Welcome to the Meat of the Matter podcast. That's Mark. He's Peter. I'm Tony. We meet and you matter. And we do this every Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. UK Irish time, 7 p.m. in the Netherlands. And that would be, I guess that would include continental Europe, if I would be correct. I'm not there, so I don't know. But
yeah,
we are taking things in our hands. We are discussing all things meat and nutrition, health. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, so we'll just start talking, and hopefully we can answer some questions, and people will join us, and we'll see where it goes. Boys, how are you doing?
Oh, good, sir. How are you?
great.
Good. So how anything crazy going on in Ireland, Mark?
It's always crazy over here. Madness over here.
Yeah. What about
When
you?
when are you gonna come over and visit me?
Yeah. If my government allows me, I don't know, man. It's pretty crazy in Canada, man. Things are just
Same here.
We don't even have a government right now, and it's like they're not in session. It's just anyway. That's just a whole other topic. We're not going to get into politics and stuff here, unless, of course, it affects our cows, which is very possible in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter, how are things in I'm not going to say Dutchland.
Here in the Netherlands, yeah, all fine. Most of the news that you get is the stuff that happened in Washington, of course, but
yeah.
Besides that, actually, we are factually without a government as well, I'd say. But
interesting.
So not so much is happening. And in terms of carnivore or diet and health, I'm still reading a lot of these newspaper articles that are getting in. Like now there was another one. I don't even remember what it was about, but it was a certain percentage of risk when eating this and this, or when not following the Mediterranean diet. And
I know, man.
Usual stuff.
Yeah, well, I always, like we're gonna get into when we get into write that down today. We've got one that's just, we'll all get to have our say in the matter. If anybody's here and has a question, by all means, we're gonna answer it. But we talked about something just sort of on our chat before, and it was how skin, weight, cancer, and metabolic diseases are related. So maybe we'll just start with that stuff because, I find we pigeonhole ourselves, or we put all these health properties into boxes. And I honestly think it's dealing with everything, all of it. Mark, what do you think about that?
100%. I mean, I grew up in an obese family. Look at me now. If I showed you my family, like I grew up with like two brothers, one sister, a mother, a father, and if you looked at my family, every one of them are obese. So when it comes to like genetics, I'm sorry, I just don't agree with it. I just don't agree when it comes to like the likes of obesity, where we cannot control this ourselves, and especially other things like what Tony just spoke about, like skin. A lot of people are dealing with eczema. They're dealing with like so many skin conditions. I get so many questions on a week-to-week basis. Mark, what's the best cream I can put on my face because I'm struggling? I have all these wrinkles, pimples, all this stuff. And I always say to them, like, listen, forget about that. What does your diet look like? It all starts from the gut.
Yeah.
Everything starts. People don't understand this. It starts everything from the gut. The next thing you need to look at is basically all these lotions and stuff like that. You're only putting a band-aid on the problem. It's not actually doing anything to the problem at all. It's not fixing the problem. The next thing is like I'm not a doctor. None of us here are doctors. I'm not saying that what we're saying in regards to carnivore and keto can treat cancer. But what I firmly believe is this: we can put it into remission. I firmly believe that. The reason why I believe that, because you guys know my story, I'm not going to go over it, but basically what happened last year in my family. But I just firmly believe that all of these conditions, whether it's skin, obesity, cancer, metabolic issues, I firmly believe, this is just my personal opinion, before you go down any route, where it's medication, it's creams, it's chemotherapy, all that kind of stuff, you just need to look at your diet first, address that first, and let's see what happens.
No doubt. Peter, what do you think?
Yeah, when I just think about my diabetes, then I immediately think about gut health. And what you hear about people getting type 1 diabetes, it's an autoimmune disease, of course. And then there are ideas about certain compounds in plants, for example, that are very similar to the human body, proteins in the enzymes in the human body. That might trigger this autoimmune response. And if I would known about it, maybe I would have been able to prevent this thing. And what you also see is that genetically, I mean, I don't believe that being sensitive to gluten is a genetic disease, but you do see that certain people are more predisposed for celiac disease, for example. And those genes are, I don't know, they are somehow linked to genes also involved in type 1 diabetes. And so that gives to think like what would happen if you don't eat gluten? If you see the first symptoms of type 1 diabetes, or if you know that it's a thing that runs in the family, because that was also the case for me. My grandfather also had type 1 diabetes. I think it also sort of sometimes skips one generation. And what I heard from my mother, that he would also eat pasta for dinner, for example, and then he would go low. He would have hypoglycemia, and that could well have been also like the gluten in it, because his bowels were probably not capable of digesting food, would be irritated by it. And so it's a totally different example, but you end up using medicine. Well, it's maybe not necessary, and I find it very problematic. I made a video today discussing, I mean, it's a bit of in a sort of satire way, but discussing vegetables and fruits and the anti-nutrient compounds in it. And for some people, in this video, I actually the idea was to show what foods can you eat, and people are usually complain about when you cannot eat something. In this case, I did the total opposite, and people still get angry. You are not allowed to say that there are maybe some things in foods, and there are also in some animal foods, right? There are some things that are not the best if we eat chicken or pork, but if you say it about certain vegetables, it seems almost sort of forbidden, and that's really a pity.
Yeah, you know, and you mentioned a good point there, like Peter, with when we're looking at genetics, like, okay, you know, yes, we're not geneticists, we're not, you know, scientific researchers, but when there's a guy in sort of the spiritual community, Bruce Lipton. He's a I think he's something to do with neuroscience. Anyway, he's basically well, I don't know if it's him exactly, but epigenetics. I know Rhonda Patrick talks about this a lot. Epigenetics, above your genes. So even if you're genetically predispositioned or potentially more prone to something, what you're doing, your environment, your lifestyle, and the things you do directly reflect how your genes will eventually transcribe. And if we look at just like, this is with a thing that when people break down that, like, you go to a doctor for a thing, but when your body's broken, all of it needs to be fixed. And I just find that, why not focus on essential nutrients first, the stuff we require to function? And you know, you might be able to argue a little bit here and there, but if you get those foundations, I mean, I named my company Foundational Health Solutions because it's eat, breathe, sleep, move, love, and you need to do all of them to heal. And I think like that's where we get really muddy, especially like carnivores. I want to hear you here, because everybody feels this, like, meat will cause, or meat does this. Well, how about meat nourishes you to the best, in the best possible way? And I mean, you want to go into the acrylamides and like if you barbecue your steak, you're gonna be like, and the TMAO, which has been completely debunked. Just look into Bart K for that. He does a great job doing that. All these also rans are after essential nutrients. So if you're not getting essential nutrients, doesn't matter how you're presenting them. And then they throw things like, you need protein, but eat more vegetables because plant protein's better, which is just not true. And
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
and
also
that-
crazy. Oh yeah, go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
Oh no, well, no, I just wanted to say that it's crazy that there you see that there's a small risk for something, like 10% relative risk increase for something, and you're going to shift your entire diet to reduce that small amount of risk, not knowing what all kinds of effects it will have on the other side. Basically, that we are missing nutrients and that sort of stuff. That's just statistically, it already makes no sense.
exactly.
Yeah, and I just find it extremely funny when you ask these people, like, listen, what are you doing? And they'll say, listen, I'm on a very, very good healthy diet. And they're like, I'm eating all the vegetables. I'm having my oats. So at least 40% of what they're eating is rich in fiber. Then you look at them and you can see that they're not well. They're not healthy. You can
No.
see it. But they just
And-
cannot let go of these foods. They're absolutely convinced. They're convinced they're healthy. Convinced.
And if you just look at what you're speaking there, Mark, and okay, I'm not saying, we lost Mark. I'm not saying we're not going to get sick or we're not going to get something unfortunate is going to happen. And if it does, why? Now, when you're talking about like disease or conditions, if we look at our bodies, like, and you were born healthy, something had to have happened to cause something, cause and effect. Now, when we're looking at that cause, doing more of the same things that got there, to me, doesn't make sense. And when we go into these medical interventions, they treat, and it's just truth, they treat the symptom. They treat that. They don't treat the reason, or they don't get back into the reason why that might have happened in the first place, which, we've all felt it, the three of us. Changing your diet will have a profound impact on your immediate well-being, on your ability to heal, and all these things start to the story changes. And all we have to do is look at all these non-communicable diseases going through the roof, all of it. So,
and can I just add one point there, Tony? This is where social media are going wrong. This is where 90% of social media are going wrong, because they're only focused on the weight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it is. But you need to factor in, like, okay, what do you do for a living? If you've got a sedentary lifestyle and you've got a busy family, it's not about just going to the gym and becoming insulin sensitive, because most people can't do that.
Yeah.
So people have to understand that you don't need to do that. You need to understand that you can address weight loss, your metabolic issues, your health, just by food alone, guys.
Yeah.
You don't need to skip past that. Just look after that first. That's your priority.
Yeah. And I think Dr. Berg said this, and I've come to really, really preach this. Get healthy, weight loss will happen. Mm-hmm. When you get healthy and you are fully nourished. And it goes, there's so many levels of that, because I'm now seeing people heal things from a nervous system aspect, from we've talked about the mental health aspect, and it's all dealt with the same way. I mean, obviously there's certain things that you could probably with exercise and just, whatever you want to call it, meditation, or, just mindset, but having a strong mindset, it helps when your brain's nourished with the stuff that it needs to do all
100%.
the
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
Right? I mean,
100%.
We've all experienced brain fog, and there's this magical thing that happens when and it's not magic. It's just nutrition. Nutrition is nutrition. And
did you guys watch that latest video that I put up on TikTok with the woman in the car? Did you see that video today?
Yes, I did.
That was absolutely horrendous. This woman, just for those who didn't see it, this woman had a Florida holiday. Like, she was looking forward to a holiday of a lifetime, and she chose for her to be happy, she chose that she had to go to a different country and get surgery. That, to me, really, really angers me. It really angers me because not only did she want to lose the weight, but she mentions on the video it had a huge impact on her relationship
Yeah.
and it had a huge impact on her mental health.
No kidding.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible that we're not teaching these people that, listen, none of this is necessary.
Yeah.
There's not one person apart from us and all the carnivores out there that are preaching this. There needs to be more. There really does. This is not enough. We need more people in the community that needs to spread this message, because it's just absolutely insane that people are going through these extreme measures because they just cannot see a way out, and they're losing their minds. And no wonder mental health is such huge numbers at the moment. It's huge.
And we talked about this on our last little talk about, like, you know, some of the forever chemicals and the toxic soup that we're involved in. And, you know, Peter came to my rescue with a unruly guy that just didn't make any sense. And I mean, I just put a clip of what we were talking about, the plant toxins. And yes, this is what my problem is we all have to unite. It doesn't matter if you're a vegan. It doesn't matter if you're an Indian. It doesn't matter if you're Irish, Dutch, Canadian. Those chemicals, and I'm talking from plastics to pesticides, are killing our planet. And what my point was, you know, eliminating plants, obviously we know with all the anti-nutrients and all that stuff. But when you're not directly poisoning yourself with, well, you're trying to mitigate it as the least amount as possible. And then this guy goes and says, just wash your vegetables, and what's your problem? And like, to be honest with you, yeah, great, wash your vegetables. Have you seen what's in most people's water in this world? Let alone, you know, like that might be just adding to the point. Anyway, he was saying, well, it's in your beef then. And I'm like, yeah, it's in our world. And this is the problem, is, you know, eating this way, eating animal-based, eating ruminant meat. It's now, honestly, my opinion, I think that's why they have such a hate on it, because it's nature's filter. That natural 4-chamber stomach system protects us a little bit from those toxins. I hate to say that the animals get the brunt of it. Yeah, but if the animals are in a field next door to a glyphosate factory, they're getting contaminated too. I want an end to all of it. I don't want to, you know, but I'll tell you, man, when you start realizing and digging into these chemicals and how they're affecting everything and everywhere on your frying pans, like these are real things. I mean, I used to think like non-stick pans, oh, they're great for eggs. You better know what you're doing, because I'll tell you what, they're going to be. Thanks, Rick. I will keep preaching this. I honestly, man, this is, you know, after 4 years of eating this way, these are the things I think that are those people that can't get better. And they've tried carnivore. Like I'm talking about, you know, they're really, really giving it a shot. They believe in it. They're doing the things, and they're not getting better. I believe that would be a time where you have to look at mold, toxins, and exposure to these environmental chemicals that we have no idea what they do.
100% agree with you, Tony.
And I mean, yeah, it's nice to see people are showing up. Thanks, guys. Hey, Charles, Rick. Yeah, the non-stick pans. Peter, what do you think about that? Like, Peter, what do you cook with? What do you cook on your stovetop anyway?
Well, there were several months that I didn't cook almost. And in the very beginning of carnivore, I probably still had one non-stick pan. It was not the worst, but still. Yeah. It was developing scratches, and then I switched. Actually, I did already have these plate steel pans. So they're not the stainless steel. But I like them very much. I think it's Debouillère. No, it's not Debouillère. It's well, something, some French name. It's the other one. Yeah. Old Guy Carnivore has them as well. That works very nice. Yeah. But the air fryer, at some point I replaced it with an air fryer oven, a sort of sandwich oven without the anti-stick layer. Yeah. That was a disaster with meat with all the splatters going up to the ceiling. Couldn't clean it, and then in the end, I thought, why not just buy a stainless steel grid with the dripping tray and put it inside that air fryer with a non-stick layer.
Yeah. What about you, Mark?
And for the
Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Finish, Peter. Sorry.
No. For the rest, the kitchen I think it's rather clean. No plastics anymore. It was also there 2 years ago and that sort of stuff. And this one actually, it's actually very recently that I ditched all my plastic water bottles.
Way to go, man! Awesome, Mark. What about you?
I'm the same. I'm the very, very same. I just make sure that everything is filtered, especially our water over here is absolutely shocking. It's really, really bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the one thing I had to make sure I got like right. But I got one of those filter jugs just to make sure I'm drinking clean water, because water over here is actually very, very expensive to buy.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
I mean, like speaking of like water's a mess. That we could probably do a whole show on water because it's crazy. A lot of the stuff that I used to work at a high-end kitchen store, and I was like, we were dealing with like $600-700 non-stick diamond coated blah 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 pans. And the idea was they could be sustain their integrity and not leach all these stuff at high heat. But now, what I've come to know, it doesn't matter. Like if this shit is touching shit, it's gonna be potentially dangerous. That easy.
Just wait 10 years.
Yeah, and I have an air fryer, and I'm not really happy using it all the time. Only if I'm ever in a real pinch, I can cook a frozen solid New York steak, inch thick, in 18 minutes. I can have it from hockey puck frozen to medium rare, which is, it's a luxury that I'm, I don't know. I might be throwing it out after these last couple of weeks, but it's really important to realize that all this testing and all this bullshit by the government, I don't care what, it's out of control. And what we're putting in, like now, even think about it. Okay. You're eating processed foods. You're eating a bag of crisps for you guys, or chips for me. They're in plastic. That's plastic. All your tuna, your tin cans, your aluminum cans are lined with plastic. If you're not realistically putting something in the ground and picking it when it's ripe and being in control, if it's in the air, it's getting rained on by chemicals. Our animals are getting they're getting polluted too. It's a mess, man. And I think the awareness of that is because like we get these people, the people in our spaces that aren't. Obviously the majority of people, they go carnivore, they get these things happen, and it can happen very fast. But there's a few people out there that can't seem to get to that place where they're. I'll just say for the sake of it, is feeling human. They're still, and they're doing everything right. Once they're eating enough fat, they're cutting. But one thing, it takes time to get that turnover. Your cells start turning over, and it takes some time. But I think another thing might be look at your toxic exposure, because I think that might be hanging up a lot of people that aren't aware. They're still chopping on plastic cutting boards. Your brain is the biggest siphon for microplastics, and they're crossing the blood-brain barrier. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, you're probably not going to be totally right. So I think that's something that new carnivores should be aware of, at least. And you know what? Keep going. You just rely on a solid foundation and do the best you can. That's where I'm at now. It's like, what? I am not drinking coffee. This is the first time, like it's been 3 days, and I am doing it for the mold toxicity reasons. And I'm like, I better practice what I preach. And I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to find the coffee beans, but when they're coming from another country, you have to admit there could be mold, and you never know. So
how did you take your butter this morning then, Tony?
Yeah, I'm butterless, man. I'm flying. I'm
really?
going. I thought about it, but I was like, yeah, we'll see how I go. Like energy,
I've seen carnivores, I think, mixing it in water, just putting the blender in, and sure. I've never done it, never tried it. But
hey, if we would have told each other 17 years ago that we'd be chomping on butter anyway, we would have been probably having a laugh, right? Lambs, what's going on? And you guys, all the people that are joining us, we really appreciate this. We can't do this without you. The idea is to kind of get engaged and bring this awareness. I know there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of influencers out there, but I think this is very cool that we're from 3 different areas of the globe, all sort of focused on the same message, and that's good. Fluoride is another one of those things, man. It's just unnecessary. Is there fluoride in Ireland, Mark?
Yeah, it's horrendous. It's in
Really?
the water over here. Yeah, it's in the water. Like that's why I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I don't buy. And the water we have in our taps over here is shocking. It really is. It's so bad, so bad. And they wanted us to. They actually wanted us to. They wanted to charge us for water about 5 years ago. Crazy stuff.
Right on. That's yeah. I know.
Scary.
Water.
Scary.
What about
It's absolutely scary.
What about you, Peter? How's the water there?
Well, it's not in the tap water, but yeah, I understand now from Charles that apparently it's in sparkling water. I never paid attention to it, but it's at least not mentioned on the labels. But yeah, that's like it's probably also not labeled on your water tap, right? So
yeah, no, definitely not, man. And this is where we've been sort of touching into this a lot lately. Is what I don't like is how they pull these things in our governments, in our health guidelines without us knowing. That's what scares me more than anything. And with all these things that we're going crazy over the pandemic, they've been doing it with animals. Like I learned that pork is a big one. They've been doing it in Canada for apparently I don't know. Don't quote me on this or fact check me, whatever. But I've heard that it's been in the industry, in the pork industry, for about 10 years. So, and it's kind of funny how they all talked about how it's been used for 10 years, but this technology's been around for the mRNA technology, but where? Oh, maybe they've been experimenting with pigs. I don't know, but I like to know what I'm putting in. And Mark, you've touched a bit about this, about labels, ingredients. That's the stuff they tell you. Imagine all the stuff they're not telling you. And like you mentioned before, Peter, too. If it's not a nutrient, they don't have to tell you. And I mean, that's something that there's lambs
except for fiber, eh?
What's that? Yeah.
Except for fiber, but.
And who needs that anyway, man? Who's? I'm fiber free. I'm feeling good. So
absolutely.
So let's go. Let's maybe hit. Is Lambs has a thing? As far as I know, there's chloride in the tap in Holland. No, or I don't know. Yeah, I know for a fact in Canada there's chlorine in the water. And here's something that people don't really think about. This is another side. I didn't think about this, but when you heat up chemicals in their one state, they change states. So chlorine becomes gas. And apparently the chlorine gas is the problem. So when you're boiling your water that's heavily chlorinated, that could be another aspect. Now, I don't know exactly what goes on. I'm sure everywhere in the world's got their different ways of dealing with this, but it's just something to think about. And like, we put things in foods and chemicals in things to do a certain thing, but we never look at the what happens when we prepare them, cook them, unleash them into the air, and that's the nonstick pan thing too, right?
Yeah, and then with the chloride in the water, you could argue that it's for the purpose of hygiene or safety, but a lot of these things, I mean, whether you agree with it or not, but a lot of these things are merely for small conveniences. And I always think about like the large shelves with washing detergents in the supermarket. You have a wide variety of choice, but not only that, like the last 10, 20 years, every few years, you get a new product for some sort of convenience. Then you can use these gel bowls with gel. And now there is these towels with washing detergent inside it. But what do we need it for? All this stuff is like, it's just commercial stuff, right? It's just to earn money. But I can name hundreds of examples like this.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yeah, that's a whole other mess with like I'm against fragrances. I try not to like I don't know how maybe this is a good thing to get into today. Have you guys noticed that you're more because I'm way more sensitive to smells, like heavy perfumes and really like fabric, like fabric softeners and laundry detergents and stuff. Those real scenty stuff. Like, have you noticed it, Mark, that you've changed? Like you're a little bit more put off to unnatural fragrances?
Yeah, you can pick these up straight away. Like you just have a stronger sense, your sense of smell, your appetite, like stuff like that. It's a lot more powerful than what it used to be.
No kidding. And that's something that I think I probably in all my carnivore videos, I've never really mentioned that, but it's true. Like, if I get into an elevator with somebody with a lot of perfume on, it's almost like
it's really strong. Yeah.
Suffocating.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So it's like it's like you're gonna get a headache after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that never used to happen to me. And now, I mean, now even going through some of the stores in the
That's
shop.
That's what I was gonna say. Like usually when I go through those stores and going through the perfume alley, my God, it's just it's really, really strong. You have to like walk outside and get a bit of fresh air. It's that strong.
Yeah, we gotta mention.
A big part of it is probably not even carnivore, right? It's just the fact that we don't use those things. Because if I think about my family that lives in the countryside, they don't use these things. And in the past, they would complain if I used a little bit too much washing detergent for my clothes, and they would smell it. So it's probably also a lot of like habituation.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. We got to mention this because Rick's been here every day. Well, I'm gonna go see him. He does a long live stream every Saturday morning. We'll come and see you, Rick. I promise. I'm at the office on Saturdays, which kind of sucks, but we'll try and do that for you, buddy. Thank you very much for your support. I appreciate your being here. That's amazing. Let's see. Let's look at some things. Here we go. Rick says he gets terrible reactions in most homes and all office buildings. It's interesting how how you're I guess you could call it hypersensitive when everything starts working properly and you're not blunted by the toxic. Your brain is actually receiving these false, unnatural fragrances. But I feel the same way for sure. And Charles even says it. Charles is like, yeah, perfume and cologne gives me a headache. That's okay. Carnivores, we've decided. That's it. No more false fragrances, people. Do your best to get them out of your head. Maybe that's causing.
I don't know when the last time I ever put aftershave on me or I put spray on me. I haven't put spray on me in about 2 years.
That's a good point, Mark. You haven't bought that. Now, everybody that says the carnivore diet is expensive. Let's talk about the residual effects now that I've saved money on. I'll go first. Deodorant, I don't buy it. Shampoo, I don't buy it anymore.
Yep.
Laundry detergent, I make my own.
Yeah.
I use and I'm talking way less toilet paper. Yep. I use way less. I don't clean anything because I'm not making a mess everywhere all the time. So, Peter, what about you?
Well, I'm curious about your laundry detergent recipe anyway, but so deodorant, I still have one bottle left of old shaving foam. It doesn't do that much harm, but I will eventually replace that as well. And the only soap that I use is actually these blocks of, it's not 100% tallow soap, but it's something from the shop that is close to it. And it does not do too much harm, but I plan to make my own soap at some point, which I will use as shampoo and all the stuff.
It's easy. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, I'm the same as you guys. I don't use any of it. I don't use any toothpaste. No. Everything I use pretty much is just through coconut oil and like what Peter says and tallow. That's it. Yeah. And I've been doing that now for well over 2 years. My skin is the best it's ever been. My hair is the best. My hair and nails are the best that's ever been. And I'm not walking around stinking. I don't have to wear I don't have to wear spray because this is another thing that people need to understand about the gut. If you're walking around like with sweaty armpits and you can smell a sweat off you, that's a sign of inflammation.
Yeah.
That's got nothing to do.
Toxicity, yeah.
So again, if you guys are inflamed and you're using the spray, you're not fixing the problem at all.
No.
It's
You're
coming.
clogging.
It's coming. Yeah, it's coming
clogging.
from the gut. So, yeah, I haven't used anything. And like Tony says, I can't understand when people say carnivore is so expensive. Like
Oh.
I'm saving a fortune every week. A fortune.
No kidding. And
Because
I'm sure
sorry, Tony. If I wanted to live like a full carnivore lifestyle, I could probably get away with spending about 30, 40 quid a week easily, because ground beef in this country is extremely cheap. Like for like half a pound of beef over here, you're gonna get for about €3, €3 or €4. And the reason for that is because a lot of people, the beef over here, the higher the fat is, they actually make it very, very cheap. So if you buy ground beef and it says like 18% fats or 20% fats, nobody here is going to buy it. So that's why it's so cheap, because they can't get it off the shelves. So it works perfectly for me. So when I go into the shop, I'm like, wow, this is incredible. But if I was to buy the lean ground beef,
premium
you're looking at about €7 or €8. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Well, funny enough, in Canada, you can't even find regular ground beef. It's very rare, and it is cheaper because they haven't. But yeah, like you're saying, man. I mean, hopefully this doesn't change. But as it stands now, I think I could probably eat if I had to on an extreme budget, I would probably be able to eat for less than $10 a day.
Wow.
So that's you know what I mean? Like if I had to. And I mean, I usually eat I'm not eating ribeyes every day. That's for sure. It's not like I'm that blessed, but I am, I do steak and eggs quite a bit, but it's different, cheaper cuts of steak.
And in fact, I can almost eat ribeyes every day without paying a lot, because I pay €18. So yeah, let's translate it to $20 per 2 pound, $10 per pound for ribeye. That's not too bad if you eat, let's say, 1.5 pounds a day, and then you're around the figure that you mentioned, Tony.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's really blows my mind here in Canada? We get cheaper beef from New Zealand, and like, how? Like, how is that possible? And I know New Zealand beef is grass fed from what I know. But it's funny how like the ribeye, like if you bought like a decent sized ribeye for us here in like we'll say at a butcher shop, you're looking at $65, $70. Wow. I'm telling you, like for enough. I'm not talking like a normal person's big steak would be about $50. For me, that's almost double I would need, and it's ridiculous. But the same amount from New Zealand is less than half the price, and I don't understand how that
crazy.
Works.
It's absolutely crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, and I know like we could probably do a whole episode on prices of beef, and it's kind of interesting to see how everybody is around the world, but it's not as expensive as people think once you start cutting out all the shit. And Charles said, like, what did he say? Can we put that up, Peter? Here, I'll do it.
Oh, that one. Yeah, totally agree.
All the people that are just starting out with this diet, pay attention to this. Because, when I actually have new clients and I for a couple of weeks, we usually put on a CGM to make sure their metabolism's good, see how their blood sugar's working. And then I say, get rid of everything you want to do now, because I want you to see it on your blood. So we kill two birds. You get rid of your pantry, and you see the effect of the noodles on your arm. But what ends up happening is then pay attention to how much you don't waste. So less food waste, Charles. Absolutely. I never throw away anything. You know what I mean? Like I eat pretty much, unless whatever the meat is coming in the butcher paper or the thing, but there's no other waste, and it's unbelievable. And you ask anybody, how do you eat all your vegetables? I bet you they don't.
And you made a good point earlier, Tony, about the toilet roll, because this is one thing. This is one thing clients tell me, is that they say they're actually spending less time in the toilet.
Yeah.
And that's a good sign.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's
And
a good
you know,
sign.
who is it? Sean O'Mara. Do you guys know who Sean O'Mara is?
I do, yeah.
Like the Visceral Fat, the DEXA guy, who is amazing. But his I heard him on a talk once, and he was saying humans aren't supposed to be noisy, burping, farting, like loud movements aren't natural. Like it's not a natural thing. Snoring, like the louder you are, the kind of, you could argue, you know, and that's one thing that we've all seen from being a carnivore. All these things are different now. It's wild.
It's incredible. It really is. It's incredible because that's another good point, Tony, because before I went on carnivore, I was a really heavy snorer, like really heavy. I could snore and I'd wake up. I'd probably wake up the neighbors. That's how loud it was. Now, like she tells me that in the last couple of years, I don't snore at all.
Yeah. No kidding. That was one thing I noticed as well too, is I was a big snorer. I was, you know, chopping down, like waking up with my throat was like dry as hell. And no, I don't snore at all. And then, you know, for all the women out there, like that have a man beside them or partner beside, whatever, you have your partner. That's probably a great thing when you stop snoring, because that's, you know, and, you know, getting back to the bathroom, I have friends that spend upwards of 30 minutes on the toilet. And I'm like, what in, like, how? And it's pretty crazy because I'm like, oh, I think I need to go. I go and I'm out in less than
2 seconds.
Probably 2 minutes. I would say tops. Like the amount of time I have saved in the toilet, like it's crazy. So there's these other little things. I know we're going from ground beef to poop, but whatever. It is what it is. Right? Well, guys, I think we should get into this because we do this every week, and I think it's time. So let's switch gears.
These guys are getting richer while you're getting sicker. Write that down. 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 These foods are highly processed, complete garbage, and I can promise you now, I wouldn't even give it to my fucking dog. Write that down.
Well, that's it's time, boys, and for this week, I've taken the pleasure of selecting a video that Mark put out, and we'll hear it, and then we'll get into it. So
studies have labeled ultra-processed foods as potentially harmful to our health, and a study published in the Journal of Nutrition linked high consumption of them to chronic conditions like cardiovascular disease, obesity, colorectal cancer. But how do you avoid ultra-processed foods at stores when shelves are stocked with it? Joining me now, I have clinical dietitian Jessica Wilson, who actually just wrote an article on the topic titled, "Ultra-Processed Foods Have a Terrible Reputation. They Don't Deserve It." She's also the host of the podcast, Making It Awkward. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I read your article, and in the title it also says, "I'm a dietitian. Protein bars, packaged salad dressings, and frozen meals help me get the nutrients and fuel I need." I audibly gasped and went, wait, what? I mean, are you an outlier in your world, you think?
No and yes, I will say, because a lot of the ultra-processed foods people think about are chips, candy, soda. And so that's, automatically what people go to. They don't think about Trader Joe's or the things that we regularly buy at Costco, protein bars, as you say. So I think it's more how ultra-processed foods are labeled rather than the broader picture of what we're talking about.
So a protein bar, I mean, I just bought a few of them this weekend. Those aren't as bad for us as headlines make them out to be. I can keep eating them?
Yes, you can keep eating them. The goal is not necessarily to take anything away. It's just oftentimes to add fruits and vegetables to what we're already eating.
What do you think about that, Tony?
Some sound advice there, hey? Don't worry about what you're eating. Just make sure you're getting fruits and vegetables. Oh, my God.
Unbelievable.
So, Mark, tell us how you feel. Come on.
Oh my God. Like, honestly, when I saw the video, I was like, I need to do something on this. I need to do it straight away. I can't get over it. I just can't get over why people just can't see this for what it is. I don't understand why they blame sugar and fat mixed together. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, how can people turn around and say that processed food in moderation is completely fine? I mean, people are. This is what I mentioned earlier on. There's too much focus on weight loss. That's all it is. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. That's what I wrote on the page.
Yeah.
These people do not give a shit about your health. They don't give a shit. If they did, they'd be preaching what we preach every day.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It's that simple. We as carnivores, we preach health first. We don't preach, like what Tony mentioned earlier on. We don't preach anything about weight loss because we know weight loss is going to come eventually. It's going to come. It's going to come naturally. You know what I mean? So when you heal the body from the inside out and you feel good, it's going to have a direct impact on how you look on the outside.
Absolutely.
And that's where we need to move away from. We need to move away from this shy 80-20 rule, eating processed in moderation. Like, you can have your food at the weekend, you can have your cheat meal, you can have your alcohol. We've done videos on these like before in the past. You wouldn't say that to an alcoholic, and you wouldn't say that to a gambler. It's just crazy. Yeah.
Peter, what do you think? Comments?
Yeah. The first thing that comes in my mind is that it's finding excuses. Always finding excuses to continue eating stuff that you find in the supermarket, stuff that we enjoy. I mean, most people, a lot of people enjoy really ultra processed food like chips and candy, but I think the majority of people also likes very much bread and protein bars and all those things. And it's just as much an addiction as for that other stuff. It's just less obvious because the health consequences are, well, yeah, they are maybe not as direct, although I would almost question it while I'm saying that, but still, it's, let's say, considered normal, that food, since it's there for, I don't know, half a century. Yeah, so there was another thing that came into my mind, but yeah, I forgot.
Okay.
You know what the scary thing about all this is? These dietitians, these doctors, these PTs, these influencers, these people think that we're the ones with the problem.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's what makes it, this whole thing, just crazy. Absolutely. How can people think that a food that we've been eating, I don't care what anybody else says, we've been eating this food for centuries. You can give me all the data and research that you want. Things have changed in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
People are dying. People are dying at a young age. I was only asked this question the other day. What's the life expectancy that you would consider someone eating carnivore? In my opinion, if you're eating carnivore for the rest of your life, you should be living to about 100 years of age.
At least 120, baby. That's what I think.
100%. That's 100%. If that's the case with the average diet, we're all on low fats diets. Why are people dying so young?
Yeah, and sick. It's not even diet. See, my idea before I lay into this dietitian, okay, she was a piece of work, right? Like, just the model of metabolic health right there, right when she opens her mouth. I'm a dietitian, right? And believe me, being a not a nutritionist, I have a problem with this. But you know what? Like, I can't even remember what we're talking because she makes me so mad. I was gonna say something about the living long, but I can't remember what it is. It's just okay. For one, a dietitian talks about calories. That's all they do. They measure your energy and they make your macronutrients the guidelines. I'm not saying all dietitians. I'm saying for the most part, they're going to tell you to eat less, move more. That's what they will say. Now, isn't it? Oh, so I can eat those foods. You're saying it. So she just gave her permission because based on what? Scientific research? or an indoctrinated education that tells you one thing that completely shows another.
First year education as well, probably. Yeah, that's
Well, dietitians. The scary part is dietitians are. It's a serious degree, which is horrific because once they get down that road, who do you think made the Dietitians Association?
Exactly.
Who do you think funded it? Who do you think founded it?
Exactly.
Well, we're not going to get into religion, but we know who is driving that one. So already you have this deep-rooted underlying agenda. And you know what? Like you said, Mark, alcoholism, giving an alcoholic a beer, not a good idea. Where are you coming from? It's okay to eat processed foods because you're just broken. The foods aren't, which is the worst message on the planet.
Exactly. And it's all based on the law of thermodynamics. They're saying, like, listen, okay, if I have a 20-gram protein bar, it's going to be the very, very same thing as a 20-gram piece of chicken. It's nuts.
There is one suggestion that I make to people, and you can take it how you want. You need to learn what your iteration of a proper human diet is. You want to argue it, I'll argue it with you. I have my bias. We all have our bias. But the further away you go from that, you're going to be in some trouble. And it does not include processed foods.
Absolutely.
And hey, man, when we were kids, I got a bag of chips. It was like a treat, or I got a dessert. Now you're eating dessert every time you put something in your mouth. That is going to be a problem. And it's also
the thing is, Tony, like we all know that every one of us can get in shape being in a calorie deficit. Every one of us know that we can eat sugar in every single meal and we can lose weight. That is not the problem.
Yeah.
People need to understand this. Please understand this. That is not the problem. Just because you lose weight eating shit, guys, that does not mean you are fucking healthy. I need you guys to understand that. I really need you to understand that. If you are, let's say you're a 300-pound male and you lose weight, that's amazing. That's fantastic. But if you're eating shit, I can promise you it's going to catch up on you eventually.
No kidding. And here's the other thing. As you get older, your body slows down. The more damage you do consistently, the more it's going to show and slow you down. So it's not a coincidence that there's evolutionary biologists that say the older you get, the closer you must be to a species-specific diet. So it's not a surprise that all these carnivores are finding their glory at our age, at 50 years old. And
exactly.
A little younger, but still on the way. So get into these habits now, because look what's happened. This is two things. Kids are getting sicker faster, and people are slowing down, getting sicker faster.
Exactly. And this whole thing about that, as you get older, you're meant to deteriorate. That is absolute bullshit. It's bullshit. Yeah. Me and Tony are proving that. Yeah. We're at probably our best stages in our lives at the moment.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the next decade.
Yeah, absolutely. The next I know for a fact that if I keep on doing this next 40 or 50 years, I won't end up in a hospital. I won't end up in a bleed. I won't end up in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be leading the best life ever. I'm gonna be training into my 90s. I'm gonna keep on doing this. Yeah. And that's what life is all about. You get one shot in life. You get one shot.
Yeah.
Like, trust me, the most important muscle you have in your body is your heart. Look after it. Look after it.
No doubt. And Peter, coming from a Bernstein approach, like there's kind of a stigma attached to type 1 diabetics, so they don't live very long. Tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, well, that just amazes me that if you look into the literature, you'll read about LDL and all these things and a lot of other, types of food that you can eat, like red meat. But the biggest health indicator, especially for type 1 or type 2 diabetics, is your hemoglobin A1C. And there is research clearly showing that above 6 or 6.5, which makes sense because your average blood level would be already like 180. Above that level, it goes up quite linearly in terms of complications that you will get if you have a higher A1C. And so, yeah, you can talk about giving everybody statins, but you should focus on blood sugar control. And nowadays, we also realize, unlike in the past, that because in the past we thought that diabetes was all about glucose, because that's how they discovered it, European glucose. But now they realize that it's all about insulin and high insulin levels in type 2 diabetics, but in type 1 diabetics as well. You have to manage your insulin, basically.
Yeah.
And the only guide that you have is the measured level of your blood glucose. But that's one thing that might not be optimized in my case as type 1 diabetic, because I imagine it's a very fine-grained mechanism, the insulin in your body, much more than just the blood glucose.
Yeah.
But overall, with an A1C of 4.9, I at least hope to not die from diabetic complications. Maybe a heart attack, but from the LDL.
Yeah, well, we're on a thing. But here's the logic as well. What you're saying, Peter, too, is if you look at your nerves, if you look at, we talked about dementia before, but your nerves,
it's all micro level. This
have a myelin sheath. The myelin sheath is made of cholesterol. If you lower your cholesterol, you are lowering the stuff that makes the stuff. If you have high sugar, glycation breaks down the myelin sheath. So you're lowering your cholesterol and you're raising the amount of sugar in your blood, doing the damage. You're getting the double whammy. And that's what is really nefarious, because this is logic, man. This is, your brain is made of fat and cholesterol. Lowering it and then giving the stuff that's crossing the blood-brain barrier that's destroying it. Well, there you go, dietitian. Eat your processed foods. Okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but I think in the end it's all glycation, because also the LDL, whether it's low or high, it's the glycated LDL that is not cleaned up in a correct way. It's floating around, doing a lot of damage. And
well, it's trying to repair damage, right? Like that's it. Right?
Yeah. So the repair guy is probably also not working properly either. Yeah.
Right. Well, boys, I think we probably did a good one today. Lots of crazy things. Mark, that was great with writing down things. I love it. So, boys, let's wind it up. We're here every Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. UK Irish time, 7 p.m. in the Netherlands. This is the Meat of the Matter podcast. Mark, tell them where you're from. Tell them how to get a hold of you.
Guys, you can reach me on Fitness Beyond Time. I'm on all social media, or you can send me an email at nsmark93@gmail.com.
Peter.
Here. And then, you'll find my email address there as well on the several accounts.
All right. And you can find me at Tony Stewart Coach on YouTube, obviously at Tony_Food for Thought on TikTok and other social media platforms. You can also find me at my website at TonyStewartCoaching.com. We really appreciate all of your questions and interventions. We'd love to see more of it. We're going to get better at this. This is 7 weeks in, boys. And I just want to say it's been a pleasure with you guys being here every Sunday talking about the meat of the matter. Have a great weekend.
See you soon, guys.
Yeah, see you.